Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. Welcome to my review for Avataro Sentai DonBrothers Episode 5. Before we get started though, at the beginning I want to remind you guys to like this video if you end up enjoying it, and then of course subscribe and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get notifications for more DonBrothers reviews every week and more. So in this episode, the team just almost unites. We're starting to get closer to them coming together as a team, and they kind of all meet for the first time as civilians, but they still don't quite know who each other is ranger-wise. We start with Oni Sister still trying to figure out how to get through to Don Momotaro with the whole battle situation and whatnot, and she's going to visit him at the packing place, but the packing place is closed. It's not really a good way to keep in competition with Amazon. And while that's going on, we still have Inui Brother on the run, and like, not almost every episode, but in all the episodes he's appeared in, he's been on the run from some sort of cop or somebody, and then he uses the glasses to escape with the AR world. And he tries to do that again, but this time there's no escape routes, and on top of that, he loses his glasses on the way out. And then he runs into Oni Sister, and they end up in the shop together, and then kind of starts this thing where basically all the main rangers end up in the shop, because like not long after that, Kiji Brother shows up because he's there to see Momotaro. Momotaro shows up because he works there and he's getting ready for tomorrow. And then eventually Saru Brother shows up. We'll get to that in a second. But they all end up in the same place. And it leads to kind of some funny scenarios, but also some nice character work, I think. Like the funny scenarios happen kind of at the beginning, I think mainly with Oni Sister seeing this as an opportunity to have a romance with this guy, and that's what she thinks it's about, because he's like using a ruse of like, oh, I'm in love with you or something to sort of have a cover. And she's like, oh, this is perfect because my manga artist lady told me that I needed to have more real life experience. So she's thinking she can use this to her advantage. And then once Kiji Brother gets there, after a minute, he realizes who Inui Brother is, like not as the ranger, but as a fugitive. And he wants to call the cops. But then, of course, Oni Sister doesn't want to call the cops. Later, they both kind of realize they have a sort of similar situation where she's falsely accused. I didn't even think about that kind of being a similar situation, but that was kind of a nice connection to draw. When he says he's innocent, she's more inclined to believe him. Saru Brother winds up getting there because he witnesses like a mugging. And not a mugging, but a purse snatching. And then the person that stops the purse snatcher is actually a monster, but Saru Brother morphs to fight him and then follows the trail of the monster, which leads him to the Amazon place. Because what ended up happening when everybody was in there together, they shared this like special bread. It's like this special delicious square bread, I guess. And they weren't supposed to eat it, and Momotaro was upset by it because it was for a customer. Like, I think the biggest plot hole in the show right now is, why are you closed for a day, period, for a shipping service? Unless, I guess sometimes holidays. But also, and you're storing, the bread's gonna go bad. This is just insane. The bread would go bad sitting. Honestly, that's what happens is, like, they eat this bread that wasn't supposed to be eaten, and they go to visit the lady and apologize and say they'll make it up to her. And then when they're coming back, the cops see Momotaro taking Inui Brother into the place, and so the cops, like, surround the place, and spoiler alert, the monster of the week is the cop. That's how Saru Brother gets there, and he takes the mic, and he tries to, like, do a hostage situation exchange with a haiku, and then he ends up in there as well. And that's when we kind of get this team bonding scene, which I thought was really nice. Like, there were some funny little beats between the characters throughout the episode, but my favorite part really came here where they were all together. We've gotten to know them a little bit throughout the episodes, but then we kind of get to know them as a group. Inui Brother, when he talks about how he's innocent, but the reason he's on the run is because he was told if he kept his mouth shut and stayed on the run for a year or something like that, then his girlfriend would be safe. Like, I've been on the run so long, I didn't realize it was my birthday. And then Momotaro has a flashback of celebrating his birthday alone, because as we know, he wasn't so well liked because of the way he acts. For that, he starts, it's really funny actually, because he's having the flashback and then he just starts singing happy birthday to himself, and it seems kind of funny because obviously the other Rangers don't know he's having the flashback. After that, we find out the Kiji Brother was bringing him some cake as a thank you, Momotaro, and then Momotaro shares it with the Black Ranger, and they all kind of sing happy birthday to him. I thought it was a nice moment. A little cheesy, sure, but it was a nice moment. It was kind of a nice cast bonding moment. There was also kind of a discussion about Momotaro's motivations, is that he felt like he hasn't felt happiness, and he wants to make other people happy so he can learn what happiness is, and he kind of gets on the other Rangers' case for all wanting to use this situation, or not all want to use it, but all of them having a selfish motivation in this situation. It's kind of nice. Like, it kind of brought everybody's little character stories together for a nice moment. And it was also very funny when, like, the cops are outside for this hostage situation, and all of a sudden they start hearing happy birthday being sang, and I thought that was really funny. And finally the villain cop has had like enough of it, and he barges in. He's like a cop based monster, obviously, since he's a cop, and that's gonna be the Pat Ranger power up. And then the Rangers all end up fleeing, and Inui Brother transforms by himself, and then the others one by one show up on the scene. So honestly, I thought this was going to be the episode where they all found out about each other, but they don't. Like, a couple of them know each other as Rangers. They all know each other personally now, but I don't think they all know each other as Rangers yet, which I'll talk about that in a second. We get another Ryusoulger change. They do kind of a funny bit about Oni Sister turning to the camera and being like, why am I the only one that can't transform into that? You know, obviously a nod to the fact that Ryusoulger is one of the few Sentai without a yellow ranger. And then there's kind of this cool bit where Momotaro uses someone else's Dawn Blaster to activate a finisher that's based off of Ryusoulgers. But they finish off the monster there, they finish it off in the mecha fight, and then, of course, you know, we have our one little scene of Zenkaiger Black, and this time it seems like he pulls out a Pat Ranger original recipe Sentai gear, and it turns into one of the new ones. So that's interesting. I mean, I'm curious about that situation in general. That's probably one of the things I'm most intrigued by is Zenkaiger Black and how all the gears are tied into everything, how it might be tied to Zenkaiger in general. I'm just curious about the gears and how they work, just because I feel like sometimes we've seen just an avatar gear appear right in front of him. There was one time where it seemed like a regular gear landed and then he touched it and it transformed. This time it seemed like he already had an old gear on his person. So I'm curious to see if a lot of that is purposeful for like a mythology reason or if it's just kind of an accident. And at the end, we just have Inui Sister saying she thinks she has a greater understanding of Momotaro now and that might help her with trying to get through to him. And then we kind of have not a post-credit scene, but a post-credit feeling scene of the three humanoid villains at their like base thing, and they're looking at this picture of Mona Lisa that's freezing over and they're coming up with their next plan. So nice little teaser of the longer plot going on. I quite enjoyed this episode. Like, I really like the characters so far, and I like the slow burn we've been doing, as I've mentioned, and it was nice to finally see them all get together and interact, and, you know, that's definitely something I missed from Zenkaiger. He did a decent job of laying down the motivations of the Zenkaigers and stuff like that at the beginning and the characters, but there's just something more easier to get into about an actual full cast of humans interacting, and I really liked seeing that, and it made me look forward to more in the future. I feel like I was in two minds about the situation through the episode, though, because part of me was like a little annoyed they didn't all just find out they were Rangers here since they were all together and attacked at once, but the other part of me kind of wants to see the slow burn continue just because I'm enjoying the unique dynamic, so I kind of was ultimately happy we might have a little bit longer with things being a little bit different. I liked getting to spend that time with the cast more bonding together because even though I've liked the slow burn, it's definitely hasn't landed us situations of having kind of more traditional scenes with all the characters together, and I thought this was a nice start towards that, not to mention building off things we've learned previously about the characters. You know, other than that, everything else was pretty light. I did like the little teaser of the more main plot with the villains and stuff, and of course we basically get a little teaser of Zenkaiger Black every week, and as I mentioned, what I've been enjoying too is that like every episode's had a little bit of a through line in the main story, which is nice. But I'd give this episode a 4 out of 5. I thought it was a really good character building and interaction episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's next. But what did you guys think of this episode? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.